school because it's an opportunity, Naima. It's an opportunity for all of you to be connected internationally to other students. Specifically, you're connected around a global issue that is pressing our Earth. Last year, correct me if I'm wrong, our Global Scholars unit was around food and the differences from culture and communities. Is that correct? Yeah. This year, our work is going to be around water and the lack of water in different communities like California, why that is taking place, and the impact that will have on your generation and your kids' generation. Well, some of you will have kids in the future, right? So we want to make sure that you are grounded in understanding the big work that you're going to be doing in Global Scholars, which is around the resources of water. And that goes back to climate and the changes in our climate and understanding why and how the climate has been evolving. One of the most important things that scientists are researching right now is the fact that polar ice caps in Antarctica, in the North Pole, they're all melting at alarming rates. And we're trying to understand why that is and what we need to do to preserve the ice caps. That will have that will have disastrous effect on the Earth if we lose all of those ice caps. Because that tells us that the Earth is what's happening to the temperature of the Earth. If we are getting our ice caps are melting at higher rates. Is the temperature increasing or is the temperature decreasing? Increasing. So that means the Earth is getting hotter as we continue with survival. So we are the ones that need to understand what we can do to change that, because we can't have all of our oceans become saturated, overfilling with water, because we can no longer contain the ice caps in a frozen state. Puerto Rico?
One of my suggestions is maybe we just all live in tree houses.
Okay, so that may be a suggestion that you work through when we do the unit around water with Global Scholars, because there will be an action-based project that you all need to engage in as the year goes on. So today is one of hopefully many opportunities where we can give you more training, deeper understanding around the issues that you're going to be learning throughout the year. And we're going to end today with a movie night that all of you are aware of, that I'm hoping as many of you can attend, where we're going to have guest speakers who are a part of the lawsuit that you're going to hear about and the movement that they're doing on Capitol Hill in DC to change laws to protect our environment, to protect our climate, because we cannot go back if we do not make this a priority now. That it'll be too far gone, and our Earth would be affected at a higher level where we are not able to undo the damage that we've done. So without further ado, I want to just turn it over to Dr. Oberman, who's going to frame our relationship with our presenters today, and then I will turn it over to our lead facilitator for today. So we can welcome Dr. Oberman.
Good morning, upper graders.
Good morning.
Let's do that again. Good morning, upper graders.
Good morning.
We are incredibly proud to have this time together to kick off our year with Global Scholars and to kick off the new year. We as a Waldorf school have been focused on the environment for 100 years, not each of us alone, but since we existed, thinking about how we can be biodynamic, how we can care for our earth. And now here we are together in the heart of Oakland, such a change agent place, and each of you are change agents. And that is why we are so incredibly proud to greet our guests. And I want to really thank Pam, Ms. Pam, for making the connection so that you all get training, being climate leaders. And Pam, thank you to let our relationship bring us in relationship, and so to grow a whole new community.
Thank
so
you.
with that, I will please welcome Pam, her son Isaac, and the whole amazing team. Thank you.
So I'm hoping throughout the day that you will have an opportunity, Caleb, to meet with our fascinating team of college students and young adults who are change agents, because we're hoping that their passion will transcend to you and you can become them in the near future. And so Callie is gonna be our lead facilitator today. We're gonna give her a warm welcome. Who will get us started, and I would love her to talk about herself and maybe give a moment for each of her team members to introduce themselves, where they're coming from, and what brings them to this work.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here today. Who's excited for our climate leadership training? Who's excited for our climate leadership training? That's the energy that I like to hear. Thank you, thank you. Well, I'm going to start off by acknowledging that all of our presenters today, except for me, will be presenting without notes. Hopefully someday I will have the time to do the same. And before we begin, I also want us to take a moment to acknowledge that we are standing on the unceded territories of the Ohlone people, who were the native caretakers of this land. While indigenous people make up less than 5% of the entire population, they protect 80% of all the diversity of species on Earth. So we ask you to honor with us Native people by protecting this precious, precious Earth. And I know that you all will, because that's what we are doing here today. So thank you all so much for joining us. I am Callie Greene. I am a climate activist, budding sustainability professional, and I am assistant director of the nonprofit Climate Change Recovery and our program that we have here today, which is Youth and Adults Acting for Our Earth, also known as YAE. And I actually, just this morning, had a moment of realization where a chant came to me, and I kind of wanted to try it out for the first time with all of you. Are you guys excited? Yeah. All right, so when I point at you, you're going to say yay, okay? Got it? Let's just try it out first. Yay! Yeah. One more time. Yeah! I like it. Okay, ready? I said, oh, hey, hey. When the planet is in trouble, we can't wait another day. Who do we call to take action? Hey! I said, oh, hey, hey. When the planet is in trouble, we can't wait another day. Who do we call to take action? Hey! Who do we call to take action? Hey! Awesome. That was great. Who liked that? Thank you. Made it myself. All right. Well, I hope that we all have plenty of time to get to know each other today, to make friends, to get closer, because what you can accomplish by working together is so much more than what we can accomplish on our own. Individual actions do really matter and are very important, but it is collective action, community action, all of us working together that we really need to make an impact in climate change and recovery. So today we will be working together to become YAE climate leaders. So we want to model behavior that is reflective of a climate leader, which is to treat each other, the physical space that has been shared with us, and the social space that we create together with care and respect, just as we want ourselves and others to treat Mother Earth. So today we will be learning about climate science and climate justice. More and more people are realizing that what humans have been doing to the climate is having real effects on individuals, families, whole countries, and the Earth's ability to sustain most life. And when I say humans, I do not mean everybody equally. In fact, those who have contributed the least to the problem are most often those who are experiencing the gravest consequences. This includes people in the global South, it includes Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities here in America, and it includes young people. So although none of us here in this room have had a major impact in creating the climate crisis, the reality is that all of us working together is the solution to solve it. It is through the power of our voices and our actions, when we work together, that is going to put pressure on those in power, those driving this crisis, and create the change that is needed to build a future for all to thrive. So at the end of today's training, you will be appointed YAE climate leaders by youth and adults acting for our Earth in climate change recovery. Your peers leading the training will help you add to whatever knowledge you have brought with you today, so that when you talk with your friends, when you go out in the community with us to speak, act, and advocate, you will be leading others for climate justice. Your presence here today and the work you will continue to do afterwards is so needed and so important. So thank you all so much for being here today. Give yourselves a round of applause. Okay, well, we will do introductions, but we have a presentation for you. So on the introduction slide, we can just pass the mic around and everyone can say a little bit about themselves. But without further ado, YAE presenters, take it away.
I have a request. If you'll come over here as you're presenting, that would be great.
Should I click it? Oh, yeah, can you take this?
You heard that, Isaac. So when you present, come over.
Everyone. All right, so hi everybody. My name is Isaac. I am 20 years old. I'm from Beaverton, Oregon, so just right across the border. And I go to school in DC. I go to Howard University. And I've been doing these YAE trainings since 2015. I've been doing them for quite a long time. I'm a founding member along with my mom. And I'll let everyone else introduce themselves and explain how they got here.
Thank you. Hi everybody, my name is Erik. I'm a senior here at UC Berkeley, just up the road. This is my first time leading a training here, so I'm very excited to be here with you all. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, I'm Rickon Manali. I'm from State College, Pennsylvania. I'm a senior in high school, I'm 17, and I'm here just a great experience. I'm excited to lead and teach all of you guys about this very current, very relevant problem that we have going on in our planet right now. Yeah, thank you.
Alright, so my name is Negwa. I live in Oregon and I go to Oregon State University. I'm excited to work with you guys and everyone. I'm excited to educate others and you guys also educating me and just spread the word.
I'm Travis. I'm a freshman in high school and I just want to have some fun with you guys and educate a lot of people here today.
Great, thank you so much everybody. Yeah, can we get a round of applause for our presenters today? Yeah, so here's everybody's names. All right, great. So the question that I'm going to answer here at the start of the presentation is, what is the climate crisis? So before human beings started burning fossil fuels, there was a natural carbon cycle between plants and animals, where animals produce carbon dioxide, and then plants breathe that in and produce oxygen. And now before human beings started burning fossil fuels, that cycle was relatively steady, right? There was pretty much the same level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, over long periods of time. However, when human beings started to burn fossil fuels to produce things, to run their cars, to transport goods, that upset that cycle and added way more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere than there was before, because we're digging up carbon that's been in the earth for thousands and millions of years and adding that to the atmosphere here. And what that does is something called the greenhouse effect. So carbon dioxide and other gases like methane are called greenhouse gases because as they enter our atmosphere, they kind of create a blanket over the earth so that when the sun's rays come in, they trap that light and heat within the earth and allow us to live at this nice, comfortable temperature. However, by adding more and more greenhouse gases to our atmosphere, like carbon dioxide, like methane, we're basically adding more and more layers of blankets to the outside of our earth, trapping that heat in and really increasing the temperatures. And yeah, so here's a good illustration of what that looks like. So whenever we, fly planes and burn fuel for that, or if we, drive a car using gasoline, or we produce things in a factory that burns, coal, all of that adds greenhouse gases to the atmosphere here and increases the strength, sort of the thickness of that blanket trapping heat here on the Earth. So the more we add, the hotter it gets. And like Phillip mentioned here, an important aspect of climate change here is the glaciers and Arctic ice here. So this image that we're looking at here is what the Arctic looked like in 1980. And as you can see, pretty well covered there. And now if we move on to this next slide, you're going to see what it looks like more recently. Yeah, and that was 10 years ago here in 2012. So it's gotten even worse since then. And you can see just how much ice we've lost here just in the past 40 years or so. I mean, it's really shocking. Exactly, it's a really big chunk of ice there. And why that's important here is that when this ice melts, it goes into the sea, which causes sea levels to rise up. And for example, Greenland here, this big island covered in a glacier, if that ice were to melt, it could cause sea levels to rise up to 20 feet. And what that would do is put nearly half of the world's population in danger of flooding, losing their homes, losing their lives. So it's really important that we stop climate change as soon as possible, because sea level rises like this will put a lot of people in danger here. And additionally, the ice here at the top of our Earth kind of acts like a mirror, reflecting back sunlight back into space here and generally lowering the temperatures here on Earth. However, as the temperatures get hotter and that ice melts, there's less space for it to reflect that light back into space, and instead the Earth is absorbing more and more of that sun's heat and energy. So this is one of the factors where even if we stopped polluting right now, this will naturally cause global warming on its own. The fact that this ice is melting and the fact that less light is getting reflected back into the atmosphere here, or into space. And here you can see a very clear relationship between the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere and the temperatures here on Earth. So you can see that the CO2 level remained relatively steady until the mid-20th century or so, around the 1950s, when we really started to ramp up the amount of stuff that we burned to produce things, and the amount of cars we drove, and the amount of flights we took, and the amount of stuff we shipped across the ocean on a big freight ship. That is what caused this massive increase in CO2, and you can see that as that CO2 level went up, so did the temperature. So you can see that there's a direct relationship here between the amount of CO2 and other greenhouse gases that are in the atmosphere and the temperature that we experience here on Earth. And so this the way that we measure the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is something called parts per million. So if you take 1 million particles that are in the air, how many of those particles are carbon dioxide? And right now, the level of carbon dioxide that we're at is 410 parts per million, which is way above the level for long-term, safe human habitation here. And in order to get to not even a world without climate change, but just the bare minimum for human survival here is 350 parts per million. So we've got a long ways to go to get that number down from 410 to 350. And as you can see here, you can really see that this has all happened very quickly. This has not been going on for thousands of years. This has all happened within the past, the past couple of generations here. You can see that most of the fossil fuel, pollution that we're dealing with here has happened since 1950, when we decided to produce most of the things that we consume using fossil fuels. And what that means, so, if you go into the store and you see a bag of potato chips, it might not look like there's any fossil fuels being burned right there, but almost at every step of the production process, fossil fuels are used, for the fertilizer to grow the potatoes, to power the ships that bring them across the seas, maybe for the plastic bag that they're stored in. As you take them home, you drive your car and you burn fossil fuels. So because we've made because we've made these decisions to rely on fossil fuels for energy, we've massively increased the amount of pollution in our atmosphere here. And this graph here illustrates why we need to act quickly. So if we took action, this green line here says that if we took action in 2010, we might be able to get below 350 parts per million of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere relatively quickly, around 2050 here. But now we're past that. It's 2022, and so this next point where we can make change is 2030. So if we start, reducing the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere after 2030, we still aren't getting to 350 parts per million in 100 years here. We really need to take action quickly, because the longer we wait, the harder the problem will be. And I think a good metaphor for this is a campfire. If your campfire starts to burn outside of the space you've made and it's starting to spread, the longer you wait to put that campfire out, the harder it's going to be to put out, because it's spread to the bushes, it's spread to the trees. But if you take action right away, start stamping it out as soon as you see it spreading, it's going to be much, much easier. And it's kind of like that here, where the longer we wait to take action, the harder it's going to be. All right, now I'm going to pass it on to Rick here, who's going to explain the question, why is climate change something we must care about?
All right, so this brings us to the next part of our slide. Why should we care about this problem? So like many glaciers around the world, the Elliott Glacier in Mountain, Oregon is facing a lot of melting. And as you can see in this picture, it has lost a lot of its mass in the ice caps and the mountain. And people of the area used to love coming to this mountain to see its beauty, the ice, the white snow, everything. It would look nice, but as you can see, it's not really that anymore. It's lost much of its former glory. And in the dry summer months, these ice of the glaciers, when they dry, they are a very important supply of water. And with that being melted away, that supply of water also goes away too. So this heat is also causing extreme heat events, such as very long-lasting droughts and water shortages in places where it should be plentiful. Another issue that is caused by the heat are climate fires. So when all the water from our underground water supplies and waters that are all being melted away and dried because of the droughts, once they're all gone, then that's kind of our last natural line of defense against climate fires from spreading. As these fires feed on the lack of moisture, and with all the underground water gone, that water, which we know that water takes out fire, and when that water underground is all gone and the rivers are all dried up, then there's really nothing stopping the spread of fire, such as this one, Eagle Creek Fire in the Columbia River Gorge in 2017. And while this is also very devastating to our planet and our forests and ecosystems, when all of those trees are being burned, it really damages the air quality of the area, causing them all smoke, and it's not good to breathe in. This here is a picture of Santa Rosa, California. This is shortly before we had our climate training in a neighboring town, recently in 2017.
Whoa.
Yeah. And this is just the night after we left our training, the night after that training. We could have very well have been in that fire had we not have left earlier. But this is how relevant, how close, how local this problem is to us. This could happen to anyone, anywhere, especially in the West Coast. And this heat is also causing sea levels to rise, as Erik has mentioned earlier. And many people around the world live in coastal areas. We're living in a coastal area right here in Oakland. And many of us who live in coastal areas, they're around the world, they're seeing their homes getting flooded, and they're at risk of losing their homes. And this is Venice, which is a coastal city in Italy. And this here is a World Cultural Heritage Site. It's a very historic place for the people of Venice. It's called Piazza San Marco. Yeah.
It looks pretty. Kind of.
This is happening all around the world, and if we don't act now, this could very well happen to Oakland, to Florida, any places. This could happen anywhere. and it's really devastating. Now, although we can't hold back the seas, we can't control the tides of the ocean, we're not Aquaman here, but what we can do is we can do everything in our power to prevent greenhouse gases from going into our atmosphere. We can do everything in our power to prevent it and bring our temperatures and the global CO2 level back to normal. We can have a good chance of fighting it now. And global warming is also causing many extreme weather events and phenomena, like extreme rain and flooding from storms. So this is mainly caused to the fact that warm air can hold more water than cold air. So our clouds are having more water because the global warming heats up the air, and then the air gets in our clouds, and then, the clouds can hold more water. And here in Nederland, Texas, we see completely flooded out town. This town received 5 feet of rain just a few hours in a storm. And just a fraction of that is enough to cause major damage in the area. Destroy power lines, topple cars, destroy businesses, everything goes down, the whole infrastructure. And on top of all of that flood water gets into pollutants that are in our towns and in our ecosystem, such as the fertilizers in farmland, insecticides, oil. As you can see in this picture, the oil refinery got flooded. And what do you think happens to all that oil when the flood goes back to normal? We'll do questions. And then fracking is another big issue. So many people in the government and people with very a lot of power, they're making decisions that are severely impacting our water. And one of those things is called fracking. Fracking is basically when people are trying to extract the natural gas from our underground resources by injecting poisonous chemicals, and usually at high pressures, deep into our underground. And what that does is it can get to our underground water supply, which is our precious water, that water that we drink, the water in all your water bottles today. It all comes from underground water supplies, glaciers, the stuff that's all going away or getting damaged. And fracking really injects all those poisonous chemicals into our underground water supply and can leave some people drinking water that looks like piss. And in the words of Pope Francis, the gravest effects of all attacks on the environment are suffered by the poorest.
Ooh, that's not good.
Yeah.
Not good. Cool.
This is a picture given from our friend Mukti, who lives in from one of the homes in her home country, Bangladesh. Can you imagine this happening to any of you guys?
I imagine it.
Well, this same kind of thing is happening to our friend Jaden in the American South. So as we saw with the Italy example, floodings and effects of rising sea level can happen anywhere in the world. So this here is a map of what North America will be in the future, the near future, that is. So that light blue border around North America is what our present day borders are. And if you see in the picture, there's a drastic change in what the border is now and what it will be. So you can see in the bottom right of the map, Florida, you see that where Isaac is pointing? Florida, almost completely gone. That includes Universal, Disney, Miami, all those beaches that everyone loves to go to, gone. All those things that... Huh?
It's like a universal.
Yeah. But you get the point though. Florida will be completely gone. We don't act now. This is happening as we speak. So one example of this is that many people they don't like to accept the fact that climate change is happening. It's very easy for us to just reject it all together, say like, oh, that's a problem for like the next 100 years to deal with. It's not a problem that we should like try to fix now. Many people don't really understand the implications that this picture holds. So this here is just a picture of a regular day in Florida. It's just a sunny day. No storm, nothing. Just a regular day. That flood water is actually from the ocean. The ocean has already reached a point where it can reach our land. It's already risen that high. And this is happening everywhere, all around the world.
Oh, whoa.
So yeah. Many island nations and low-lying nations, such as the Marshall Islands, are facing heavy threat as a result of this. Many homes like this one could be flooded, and soon entire countries will vanish under the water. And about a third of the world population lives in coastal areas. Like the Venice example, like floods can happen anywhere, and a lot of people live by it. I mean, water is the most crucial thing to living, so you must live by it. And according to current estimates, in 2014 alone, 19.3 million people had to flee their homes as a result of climate-related calamities such as this. And what that causes them, obviously, they lose their home, they lose everything. Devastating for the people that it's affecting directly. But indirectly, those people need to flee, they need to seek refuge to somewhere which can support them. Which means that many countries will see a very large, very rapid increase of immigrants and refugees. They need to see somewhere to go. And this can cause crowding in the places that they're trying to get to. And overall, it's just a bad situation for everybody involved, but mainly for the people losing their homes like this. And then all around the world, places like London and Paris, they're dealing with the droughts, the flooding, all those stuff that comes with global warming. And with that comes climate refugees. And in this picture, we see many refugees. This is a fishing boat sailing from North Africa, seeking refuge for better opportunities, away from the famines, the wars, the violence that are being fought in their countries, and in part due to the lack of water from global warming. And many people are already complaining about the refugees from Syria and all of these stuff. But how many more people do you think will need to seek refuge if global warming continues and sea levels continue to rise? It's just going to keep getting worse. Yeah. And now, that's the end of my slides. So now we go to how can we help?
All right, so that brings us to our last part of the presentation, and the big question is, how can we help? All right, so first, we need to be able to empower others. So of all ages, people of all ages need to be empowered, whether it's adults, youth, doesn't matter, just we need to empower others. And then we need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, such as carbon and methane. So changing the way we do things, our daily lives, things we do, that reduces these things. And then, we need to do this in a natural way. So instead of using the new technological fixes that people are proposing, we need to be able to do this in a natural way, as natural as possible. So drawing up and bringing up old ancient strategies that were used before in just a more efficient way. And just remember that individual action does matter, but what's more important and what we need more now is collective action. So first thing that you guys have already done, you guys have joined YAE. So congrats for that, and thank you. All right, so I think we're running a little tight on time, so I'll give you guys a brief on each one of these people. So one person can make a big difference. Like I said before, individual does matter. So up here we have Julia Olson, which is an attorney, and she basically tests courts and she goes against them in the ways that they deal with climate policies and how they're dealing with things. And then pictured are Miko and Isaac Vergun, and they were also working with her on the Juliana et al. Versus US case. So there are two of the plaintiffs on there, and they're also co-founders of YAE. And then Greta Thunberg is a teen from Sweden, and when everyone was trying to be okay with the climate policies and changing and global warming, she stood out there and was like, hey, what you guys are doing is wrong, we need to cut it out and we need to take action fast. And then we have Wangari Maathai, and she basically was planting trees all over in countries such as Kenya, and she's doing this and realized that it increases water flow, it's better for the atmosphere, and for the livestock and animals around. So first thing you're gonna do is get your ideas out there with yourself or with others, be able to come up with new ideas and see how you can make a difference. You wanna talk to your communities, your families, teachers, friends, talk about how to make a difference. And then you can also talk to YAE leaders or one of us, YAE leaders, and talk about how you can join in, help make a difference as a group collectively. So we need to stop the use of fossil fuels. So the technology for a CO2-free future already exists. So things that we should do, like I said earlier, just more efficient lifestyle ways, such as hybrid cars, electric, whatever it is, just trying to change the way of our lives. And so by 2050 at the latest, we must reduce our CO2 emissions to 0 worldwide. And the sooner we do it, the happier we'll be. So we just need to take action fast and treat this like the emergency that it is. It's not a light thing. We just need to take action, and without all of us getting together and doing it, it'll be harder. So the more people who get involved, the better it'll be for all of us. And so help others act. And like I've said multiple times, our lifestyle does have a really big impact. So just you by yourself, whether you think you're just one person, you're not making that big of a difference, it really does matter. So every little thing you do, whether you're using your own utensils when you go out to eat, whether you're turning off the water when you're not using it, when you're brushing your teeth, leaving lights on in your room, all these things do make a difference they make an impact. So just being careful and taking care of those things will help us all and our planet. All right.
Okay, so cows are a big contributor of methane, and so what they eat, what we feed them is soy, and it's not very good for them. So if you keep them on a plant-based diet, they won't produce as much methane, and that's better for us, better for the planet. And if you didn't know this, grass-fed beef is healthier for us, and what is healthier for us is healthier for the planet. But if you have gas furnaces or gas appliances in your house, you should get rid of them because they contribute a lot to methane and just global warming in general. And think about the type of car you have. If it's a gas-powered car, then think of all those emissions that you're going into the atmosphere. Now, please plant trees because it's quite beneficial, but we also have to protect the trees that are already planted. Trees pull CO2 down from the atmosphere and store it safely, but they also emit oxygen into the air for us to breathe. So it's a big deal. Support the Green New Deal and other legislations like it because they contribute to helping with cleaning up the environment, cleaning up the air, and it's just a good organization to support. But also think of nonprofit organizations because they can help organizations like us and give us money to do whatever we can to help the planet. Now, waste not and want not save money, which means that to waste food is quite bad because think of all the fossil fuels that you're wasting. So, which means you're wasting fossil fuels to take the fertilizer from wherever it's made to the farmhouses to make the food, and then taking the food to grocery stores, that's also a lot. And then to cool the food at the grocery store and keep it cool to your house, that's a whole lot of emissions that's being wasted. But don't waste food because 40% of Americans waste food, and it's not very good. But save the food that you can't eat, or just take what you think you can eat. And if you can't eat some of the things like eggshells or coconut shells, then do composting because it's great for your garden. Now, supporting organic and local farms means instead of going to the store to buy your food, go to farmers markets and just local farms where you can buy your food that's fresh. But if you're into reading, you should definitely read The Omnivore's Dilemma. It's a great book, but if you're not into reading, then you should watch films like GMO, OMG. They're great films. I recommend them. Or you could just grow your own food. It's great exercise, great for the planet, great for yourself. Now, to make things fair, we should learn from indigenous people that actually care for the Mother Earth and learn from their practices, because they've been practiced for centuries, years. And then we should help each other reduce poverty. So if people want to move someplace due to their heritage or whatever, we don't know, just we should be mindful and be welcoming to people that want to move where they want to move. And we should just enjoy the land, the people that have been here, and learn from all of it, because we can all use that in our day-to-day lives. So now, when you buy less and buy what you think you might need or what is good for the planet, so this means that you could go to Walmart and buy a picture, but that picture will be mass-produced from China and make an already very wealthy family more wealthier. Or you could buy a picture like this, which is not only beautiful, but it also helps nonprofit organizations such as this get money to help and support causes like this. I'll pass it on to Isaac now.
So we've been talking a lot about individual action, saving water, not wasting food, lowering your carbon emissions, but a lot of what we can do involves the bigger picture, holding corporations and government responsible for knowing that these fossil fuels create the climate crisis and forcing us into a system where we are very dependent on them in the first place. And so some things that people have already done to take action on this is the Juliana et al. Versus United States lawsuit that Nagua talked about for a little bit. So I'm actually involved in that, myself and 20 other plaintiffs from across the country, literally all corners, Alaska, California, Hawaii, Florida, and New York. We are all very diverse, cover different backgrounds, all came together to sue the federal government for violating our rights to life, liberty, and property by allowing the promotion and extraction and use of fossil fuels. And we've been doing this since 2015, and we're still going through up and down the court system. But there's this one quote from MLK. It says, "The arc of justice bends long, but it always bends the right way," or something like that. I kind of botched that, but something along the lines of that. And so the three main points that we've been arguing in this lawsuit are the public trust doctrine. It is an ancient doctrine that has been across many old ancient societies, including our own, that means that the government will preserve essential natural resources for all of its people indiscriminately. So that means land and water. And one thing that we have been arguing in this case is that you need to include air. If we're looking at the cycle of water and how we interact with our earth, you got water that evaporates, it goes into the clouds, comes down for precipitation, and fertilizes the land that we all live. And so why not include the air in that? And then also, we are arguing for the Fifth Amendment, due process. We are saying that our fundamental rights to life, liberty, and property are being obstructed because of said climate crisis, And then also the 14th Amendment, which is saying that as young people, or when I started this, I was 13. So I'm 20 now, and so I have a right to vote. But I don't think most of you here are even old enough to vote yet. And so the government is making all these decisions, not forward thinking about the climate crisis and its impact. And you guys, all of us, are going to be disproportionately affected because of that. We don't have a voice in the government because we're too young to vote. And so that's why our 14th Amendment rights were being violated, or are being violated. And what we're arguing for in this lawsuit isn't for money. It's not like a regular lawsuit, like settlement, like pay me $10 million or Judge Judy stuff. We're asking for a concrete climate recovery plan that's backed by science and held to the standards that the courts set for the government. which includes carbon caps, reforestation, reducing emissions, and all that good stuff that we've been talking about on our individual actions. We're now going to hold the government responsible, as they should be. And, yeah, like I've been saying before, people and corporations have not been held accountable, but they have, and the government has also not been held accountable for things in the past. And the one thing that's a very common denominator, and all those things changing, has been people showing out and demanding better living wages, better living conditions, equal rights, equal protection under the law. And so that's what we're doing with this lawsuit, and that's what we're asking everyone else, all the young people, everyone who's affected, to come through, support the climate suit, support the environment and the movement, because if we all work on this together, we can actually see some progress going forward. You can fundraise for events. You can do a whole bunch of donations. You can donate your time, your money, your effort into the cause and to other causes equally, because all forms of donations are important. Right here in this little section right here, we've got some of our other YAE friends up in Seattle, Washington, doing a little lemonade drive and donation drive and information booth, showing people that, hey, maybe we should do some carbon cap up here in Washington, and maybe put a little warning label, or they call it a warning label, on gas pumps saying, hey, while you're filling up your car, just know that you're emitting more false fuels into the atmosphere, so maybe drive a little less, or something like that. There's a whole bunch of things that you can do to get that message across. You can present to classrooms, to schools, to businesses, to events and rallies. There's people everywhere who want to hear your voice. Your voice as the youth has a very impactful voice. I've seen it myself personally. When I was younger, I would go out to rallies and speak in front of other people. And there would be a whole bunch of adults going through, filing through, being like saying their little piece. But then when I come up as a black youth, they are kind of take a step back and really listen to what I have to say. It's really nice and really moving, because it feels like I kind of actually made an impact, even though I've seen all these hundreds of adults come through and spit their grievances. So everyone here has a very big opportunity to let their voice be heard, for real. You can talk to the media. There's interviews that I've done and press releases that I've done, because everyone does want to hear what the youth have to say. We're very impactful, if you get engaged at a young age, you can have a big impact going forward and maybe make a career out of it. I am actually double majoring at Howard in environmental science and journalism, because of all the climate stuff I've been doing ever since I was young. And so now I'm taking that into a career and making something out of that. You can experience the power of your climate voice. Like I said, you can meet people from so many different walks of life and backgrounds doing this work. Like, for example, like what I said with the lawsuit, there's people from all across the country who are in this lawsuit with me. And they all come from very, very different socioeconomic backgrounds and different upbringings. And the one thing that we have all in common, though, is a passion to fix the climate crisis. And I know everyone here, to some extent, understands that they have a stake in this too, and are more than willing to connect with people and talk to people about this. You can persuade local officials. Like right here, this was a long time ago. But I was with Senator Jeff Merkley talking to him about the lawsuit and carbon cap tax. Right here is my sister, my mom, are talking to the president of the Marshall Islands. So the Marshall Islands is a small, low-lying island nation in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. If you draw a straight line from Australia to Hawaii, it's smack dab in the middle. And the highest elevation there is 7 feet. So sea level rise of 20 feet that Erik was talking about earlier is not viable for that whole entire nation. And so my sister and my mom met with her so they could just talk about climate policies and impacts in the nation. You can show up to rallies and demonstrations in masses with youth all across. There's more youth now than when I started, at least. And so you're gonna be finding a lot of familiar faces and young faces and maybe connect with them and be friends with them, you know? And then go to more rallies and demonstrations together. You can create art, like right here. My mom has this older shirt that we made, People versus Shell, during one of our protests. This was on a little reservoir when we were hiking up in Portland. This is here, us making some art at another YAE training several years ago. Like, there's so many different ways that you can put your own flair into your activism. It's not always just public speaking. It's not always just doing media stuff. You could do art. And bringing friends together in and doing it makes it that much better and kind of eases your mind a little bit, because this is a really, really heavy and stressful topic. And surrounding yourself with people who are like-minded and keep you hopeful and uplifted keeps you and keeps me going forward. You volunteer for organizations like YAE or Sierra Club or the Nature Conservancy, Greenpeace, 350. There's so many organizations, and also organizations that are more directed towards the youth in your area than ever before. You can also host a movie night. For instance, tonight we're hosting a movie night for Youth We Go, this movie right here. Thank you. And the Lorax is an environmental movie too, when you think about it, you know? Because the Lorax is the best. The Lorax is pretty good.
I used to watch that all the time when I was a kid.
No, yeah. I still watch it. What do you mean? I still watch it.
I try to watch it, but most of the time I'm not on Netflix.
That's fair. Yeah, that makes sense. No, yeah, like I said before, with all my work that I've been doing on the climate since I was 12 years old, I've had amazing opportunities to go internationally and go to conferences and meet like-minded people working on the same issue in their own countries. And it's really hopeful, because sometimes it feels like I'm here in the United States, there's not much that I can do, there's only so much that I can do for real, you know, with my own community. But this meeting with them, this is out in Germany, with some of our friends, Spain, Italy, France. Meeting them keeps me hopeful, keeps me alive, reassures me that everyone is on the same page and we're all working towards the same goal. And for example, families can make a difference. There's a little plug for my own family. This is my sister, who I said before was meeting with the president of the Marshall Islands. Here's my dad, and yeah, that's all photo. That's not important. And then my mom, you know, whole family's been working on this too. Oh, and then we have supporting actors, David, who's our dog, and then Honey, our cat. Yeah, so that brings us to the end of the presentation. I would say we have time for questions, but I think we need to skedaddle out of here. So as we make our way back to the main pavilion out there, you can ask the questions.